What? What did you guys say? I can't hear you. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to another build video, and today we're going to be going over the updated turret AMON. This build will do it all. You can do mobbing, you can do bossing, UVH5, anything and everything. If you missed it in the recent patch, we got a fix for the skill blackout, and now this build is even more cracked. Let's go over the gear. So first off, for your rep kit, you want to use a kill spring if you're mobbing. When you get a kill, it's going to spawn healing orbs and follow to you. The reason why we're using the kill spring is because, you know, when you're mobbing and you got to heal, if you pop a rep kit, you put your ordnance away. That's not good. And if you're short on a couple of bullets, well, you're going to have to wait for the cooldown. So those healing orbs are going to keep you topped off and you will never die. Now, when you're bossing, you do want to swap over to amp. And if you have it, ideally amp and enrage. You want to make sure your rockets are hitting really hard, and this is the way to achieve that. If you're lucky enough to, you can get this on an order rep kit and get a couple of charges. As for the minigun, we are using the Atling gun and just, you know, getting on elemental. You don't need elements on it. Now, the Atling gun's pretty much only for mobbing. You can boss with it too, but currently we have a bug in this game to where if you overload the game with too many, like, damage calculations, the game will, like, lock up and kind of freak out. Kind of weird to explain. I'm not going to bother explaining too deep into that. But for bossing, you want to use yourself a honey bunches that has triple barrel and shrapnel rockets. This launcher is insane. DPS on the card's a lie. It's not 12,844. It's actually like 100k. It's quite stupid. Now, I've been farming a stupid amount of splash zone for pretty much all the elements. I'm just missing radiation. I have one, but it's like really bad rolled, so I still need to find one more. But you don't need all the elements. This is just like min-maxing. Just try to get a non-elemental one, kinetic one. And then as for if you're killing something at range, I found this kind of cool. You can use a shrapnel with air burst, and you can like snipe with it, and it will like be dead on. Like no matter where you aim, it just goes straight in a line and will hit anything, no matter how far away. The shrapnel and triple barrel one will actually swirl, which means you can't use it too well long range. So this is quite nice if you want to snipe with a launcher. And then I tried the Bodeman, and this launcher is, you know, it works, but it's not like the best, but it's quite fun. The main thing you want to get on it is Beam Splitter, which will split to 2 nearby targets, but what I think is happening with this launcher is when you're hitting one target, it just hits all of the beams on one target, not, you know, nearby targets. So I haven't done much testing on it, but I think it's actually doing triple the damage it says on the card due to having the other 2 beams split. Either way, really fun for mobbing, and it's semi-decent for bossing. For the most part though, Atling gun for mobbing and your honey bunches for bossing. For the class mod, we are using Icebringer because you can boost up Tail of the Comet, and it is a really, really high-hitting damage over time for cryo. You want this for pretty much everything, except for when you're fighting a shield boss, you want to use the Grenadier. And with the Grenadier, you can boost Blackout. You can see there we have +5 on it, and that will chew through any shield bar in the game. I would say 98% of the time you're going to be using the Icebringer, so use that for pretty much everything, using Tail of the Comet. And then for, like, you know, the 1% of the game, 2% of the game, like Orbigo, all shield bar, use the Grenadier. As for your other skill, it doesn't matter too much, but for your passives, try to get, you know, like damage stuff, like element damage, damage dealt, ordnance damage, ordnance crit chance, or even kinetic damage. Pretty good one too. For your shield, use any shield in the game that has amp on it, so you can get the 50% amp, 100% amp, or 150% amp. This one here is 150% amp on the Guardian Angel. This is probably the best shield to get it on because it has a really fast recharge rate and delay, so you can get the amp shots quite commonly. But that's mostly for bossing. For mobbing, I actually like using the What's for Dinner, but you can use whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. For maximum damage, try to get all the amp you can. It could be on a purple. It don't matter. As for the enhancements, all we care about is the gun damage rolls on it. So gun damage, splash damage, gun status effect damage, gun status effect chance. And you can also use gun equip speed if you want to really bust out your launcher really fast. Let me slap that on. And look at this. It's just like instant. It's just kind of fun. You know, maybe you want to spray down a mob and then put it away, you know, get your movement speed back and run to another mob and then pull it out again. You can do that. As for the manufactured top part, we have Blad off here. Those don't matter. Just, you know, get the passive rolls on it. Make sure the passive says gun something something. As for your firmware, we are using 2 different types, so one for mobbing, one for bossing. So for the mobbing setup, we are using 3 on Gadget Ahoy, so ordnance cooldown, ordnance damage, and if you get a kill, you get more ordnance damage, quite nice. 1 on Get Thrown for 1 bit of ordnance damage there, and then 1 point on God Killer for damage dealt to bad mother enemies. Just know that this does count for bosses too. Now if you're bossing, we are going to be swapping over to our Enrage and Amp, and then also our Honey Bunches. So you can see here we have 2 on Gadget Ahoy, and now 2 on Airstrike. Splash radius and splash damage, and then 1 on Get Thrown for the ordnance damage. Because we're bossing, it's a 1v1 usually, so you don't really get the ordnance kill bonus damage, so that's why we swap it out for Airstrike. Alright, let's go over the skill tree. Starting off, we are going to be using Red Tree, so we have Onslaughter using Fulminating Fist. You can see at the bottom there, we get status effect chance, 30%, which is going to be quite nice for dipping into Tail of the Comet and Blackout, which we'll talk about in the blue tree in just a second here. 5 points in what burns within for some more fire damage. That's just to move down the tree because everything else is not really needed too much. 1 point in Gut Punch. You're hitting so many bullets fast, it's just always going to apply. You only need 1. 5 points in Wield the Storm for the status effect damage and duration. That's huge for Blackout and Tail of the Comet. And then 4 points in Bullet Storm just to move down the tree for a little bit more gun damage, and that's going to be nice for dipping into our Specialization. And then 5 points in a Catastrophe for if you shock the enemy, you're going to get better crit chance, and if you burn the enemy, you're going to get better crit damage. This skill is really good for making your status effects hit like a truck. Moving on to blue tree, we have made a few changes here compared to the last build. So first off, 5 points in Wrath of Nature for the status effect application chance, huge for this build. And right here, you're going to see something kind of weird. So we have 3 on Scorch Kairos and 4 on Battleborn. First off, Battleborn's going to give us gun damage, and for full HP, it's going to double that. And that's going to dip into Specialization. We'll get to that in a minute. And the reason why we're doing 3 points here is because it's just enough to get your honey bunches up to a 7 mag instead of a 6 mag. So basically, if you were to charge up your launcher and shoot all of your shots, it would use up all your ammo in your launcher and put it away and put it on cooldown. But with a thing in the blue tree and having 1 extra shot in the mag, that means if you shoot the enemy, watch my mag. I was too close. You know what? I'm not cutting that out. Alright, take number 2, watch my mag. So 7, it builds back up, and we still have 7. So not only does the build have stupid damage, but if there ever comes a time when there's a really healthy boss, raid boss, we can chain this massive damage over and over and never go on cooldown. That is why we have 3 points in the skill. 2 points puts you at a 6 mag, and 3 points puts you at a 7 mag. Moving on here, we have Tail of the Comet, which is insane. This is the skill we're boosting up 10 out of 5. So basically, whenever you shoot enemies with Ordnance, the damage that you deal will transfer into 120% cryo status effect damage. So you hit the enemy really hard, and just look at the lingering damage after. You get some very juicy numbers. And that was a very tame example. I didn't even juice up my skills to make it even higher, but yeah, Tail of the Comet's insane. As for my class mod, it is boosting Ancient Waste by 2. Just know I didn't put any points into this skill. So that is a little more cryo damage, which is quite nice. And then we move on to Icy Rage. So when we get a kill with cryo damage, it's going to give us a little bit more gun damage, which will dip into our Specialization. And then down here, we have Primal Surge for 2 points. And with this skill, you can sustain infinite ammo on Ordnance, which is quite nice. And I did find that 1 point wasn't enough. If you're missing a couple of shots, you just run out too fast. But I did find out if you're playing very nicely and, you know, hitting your shots, 2 points is plenty to sustain infinite ammo, which means we save 3 points in this build to put in other skills in the build. Now, if you aren't really the best at hitting your shots and running out of ammo, you can take some points out of Catastrophe, which, you know, that will hurt a little bit, but it will allow you to sustain infinite ammo a little bit easier. But I promise you, if you're just hitting your shots, it's infinite ammo. Finally, the big change for the build, we have Blackout here. In the old version of this build, we only had 1 point because it was bugged. It would not boost past 1, so they fixed that. And now, with 5 out of 5 on the skill, we have an extra 15% chance to crit with Ordnance, and when we hit that shot, it's going to do 75% of that damage into shock damage over time. It's basically like a more tame version of Tail of the Comet, but it's still a massive shock damage over time, and then we're applying that with a massive cryo damage over time. And at the same time, it's increasing our crit chance. Remember, if we're doing shock damage over time, we're boosting our crit chance further using Catastrophe. And with that in mind, we can make sure our launchers hit really hard from the higher crit chance. Also, I didn't mention earlier, but since we are using Onslaughter, we can get fire damage on all of our shots, which means that we are burning the enemy, applying a, burn dot, and that will give us more crit damage. Alright, so we're going to go all out and pretend this is a boss right here, so let's activate Onslaughter. We're going to juice ourselves up, pull out the launcher, charge up the 5 shots, and ideally try to aim for the crit. And you can see the numbers we hit are just absolutely ridiculous. In fact, no boss in the game right now can survive this on UVH5. As for Specialization, we do have Best Defense, which is a 30% when full for damage dealt. That is a lot more than what it says, don't believe that. Full Spectrum Arsenal, which is half of my gun damage will be converted to Ordnance damage. And right now we're sitting at 56.9, but that is actually not our total. We have a lot more than what it says. Because of our Specialization, we have Riddle You This, which is if you hit the enemy with a gun, you get more stacks of gun damage, up to 50%. And in total, that's going to put us at over 100% gun damage after we stack Riddle You This, and that will dip into our Ordnance damage for a lot more. Finally, we have Fragmentation Payload for Ordnance crit chance and more Ordnance crit damage. As for any extra points you get along the way, I'm just dumping it into Brute for more gun damage. because again, that's going to dip into our ordnance and give us even more damage for that. Anyways, let's go show off the build. Alright, so we're doing some mobbing here. So again, we're going to be using the kill spring for our healing and the Atling gun to whittle them down. And then with our ice springer and stuff, this is what you can achieve. So pop the action skill, and then we'll just hold down the trigger a little bit and then stack up a few dots, and they're just going to die pretty quick. So I would say just like lay a few bullets on them. Don't just sit there and just hold down the trigger until they're gone. You know, just land a few bullets and then just move to the next enemy. Also, if you didn't know, the Atling gun has homing on it, which is quite nice. So you can just shoot at the enemy in the general direction, and the bullets will just kind of home in. And it makes mobbing extremely easy, extremely simple, and there's a near zero chance you're going to go down. Remember, every time you get a kill, the orbs are going to heal in, as you can see. And if we're already at full HP, it will convert into overshield. You are going to be quite beefy. Anyways, we're at a boss now, so let's swap out to all the damage. So we're going to do our Enrage and Amp, and then also swap over to the Honey Bunches, so Triple Barrel and Shrapnel. And all you're going to do is pop your action skill, Rep Kit, charge it up, dodge the enemy attack, shoot them, and they're dead. Alright, we're going to take on one more boss, the hardest boss in the game, guys, so prepare yourselves. Time for Splash Zone. Just one more thing here, it's just kind of a meme thing. So if you're wearing a furnace that boosts Dragon's Breath, you can see there +5. You can make it to where when you bust out your ordnance, your next shot's going to be converted to fire damage. So basically our non-elemental launcher becomes fire. And we can just like, you know, spam this as a massive fire shot by busting out our launcher, shooting it, and putting it away. And then wait for the small cooldown, bust it out, shoot it once, put it away. Because when you're bossing a flesh bar, you don't want to sit there and charge your rockets every kill. It's a bit repetitive, a bit annoying. So what you can do is just walk in. Here's, you know, a simple boss. Launcher, shoot. He's dead. It's a lot of fun, and it's more of a meme, though. It's not, like, the best way to boss, but for this scenario, it's actually really, really good. So we're getting a massive fire hit on a flesh bar, and then Tail the Comet and Blackout will finish him off if, you know, you don't get the one-shot. So really, only do this for fun if you want to fight something flesh-related. All right, one more boss. Back Hive. Very healthy. So we're doing the exact same setup, so the Furnace with +5 on Dragon's Breath, and then busting out our Honey Bunches. So we're going to amp up, activate our skill, and just do a simple one-tap. Boom. And there's your boss. Oh, also, I should have mentioned this earlier, but you don't need the full burst your launcher. It's complete overkill. You can one-tap with one rocket every single boss in the game. Tail the Comet and Blackout are extremely busted. All right, I lied. One more. Boom. Hey, that was a lot better. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed the build today, so try out Turret AMON for yourself. It is a lot of fun, it's a very strong build, and I think it is the build I'm going to rock when they drop the raid boss in the future. But yeah, thank you guys for watching, and if you haven't yet, be sure to hit that sub button on the way out, and I will see you guys in the next build video. Peace out.